Welcome to Beyond Stereo, the Dolby Atmos podcast. I'm Dan Bucknell, and here we talk about the world of immersive technologies aimed at creating more meaningful and emotional experiences for music, film, and just about everything else. Back again for this episode is Justin Gray, here today to talk about his adventures at NAMM and remixing Snoop Dogg's Doggystyle in Dolby Atmos.
I've been attending NAMM for many years, prior to COVID as well. Obviously, then it took a break. And then the first time that we sort of came back after COVID was halfway through the year. And then there's been another 2 since then, which are back in their sort of typical January time. And one of the cool things is that post-pandemic is Atmos was here. And so there's a couple of companies over the last number of years, Neumann being one, PMC being one, Genelec being another. As well as some other companies as well. You know, if you go around the NAMM floor, there's like Focal has done it. Augsburger has done it 1 year. I've actually got a great Augsburger immersive story from NAMM, one of my favorites.
Love to hear it.
Yeah, and then Ocean Way was there, you know, with theirs. iLoud, you know, so the different booths. Yeah. But the ones who went all out and got rooms, Neumann, Genelec, PMC, and have created listening rooms. And these rooms are obviously places for them to showcase their technology and showcase their sweet speakers. And they are so good. But they really, it's pretty awesome. These are companies that really do deep down care about the art. When you start to get to know the people behind the company, like Maurice or Greg Simon or Thomas Lund, those are three sort of major folks at Thomas at Genelec, Greg and the team, Jennifer and such at Neumann, and then Maurice at PMC. They are individually very passionate about immersive audio. And so those rooms became and have maintained being sort of educational environments where they would basically curate hour-long immersive audio educational listening sessions. And they built these rooms. And I mean, hey, those companies, I mean, obviously these are big companies. So I'm sure they can afford it. And I'm sure that they make lots of money. And I hope the best for all of them that way. I like the people. I like what they make. But it's not a small feat to bring like all the scaffolding, all the speakers. I mean, it's a big deal.
It's a whole studio. Yeah. It's like,
but actually bigger because they set them up sometimes to host, 30, 40 people.
Wow. So it's a whole cinema.
Yeah. They're building like mini cinemas in a trade show. So I really appreciate it. And again, these people, they're working hard. They're working 14-hour days to get it set up. They're sending pallets of stuff. So it's just pretty cool. The community there, there's folks who have been around the AES and NAMM community for a very long time, folks that I've been naming in this call as well. And I, because of the position that I was in sort of post-pandemic and my work specifically through the AES and connecting with folks like I've mentioned, I'm sort of a younger generation than many, and I do not have the accolades of many of those folks. I mean, we know when we just take the list of those folks and just line up their accolades, it'll go down the hall. But I believe I bring something to the community from an educational standpoint, from a philosophical standpoint, and from a technical standpoint. And I've been very honored to sort of be welcomed into being a part of giving some of those seminars. And it is amazing. If anything, I get so distracted by it that I forget to do the rest of the NAMM. Go see different new pieces of equipment or walk around the floor, which is always such a blast to see people because it's like, I could walk the floor or I could listen to Elliot Shiner play immersive content. Well, I think I know what I'm going to do for the next hour, and then that's done. You're like, and now Leslie Ann Jones is going to talk about like recording at Skywalker for an hour. You're like, I think I'll just sit here again. And then Eric Schilling and Herbert Waddle are going to come up and they're going to play the most, the God of War Ragnarok thing in soundtrack that they did in Sony 360 in 13 channels. Blow your freaking, it's like, blow your mind.
Insane.
Now, I could listen to it at home, right? Like, let's not go on the Sony 360 tangent, but quick version of it is another object-based format, but a 13-channel system that has lower speakers, main speakers, and upper speakers. So they have their own array. And I can listen to it. I also work with an array for Sony specifically of Genelecs, but I can't have Herbert and Eric there explaining it to me.
Absolutely.
And I can't be with 30 other people who are all smiling and enjoying and enjoying each other's company. And, it's different. It's different than me sitting in my chair.
Yeah.
It's the experience. So, NAMM this has been sort of like the immersive aspect of NAMM has been this growing, unbelievable sense of community, sharing, learning. Very, very inspiring. Very inspiring.
That's completely amazing. I would love nothing more to go to NAMM. It's just, it would be a flight and a whole thing for me, unfortunately. But it's a full-on effort. But at the same time, I'm sure at some stage I'll get down there and check it out for myself. I've got friends that have definitely been and seen it. But every year they're coming up with so many different things.
This is the thing. So what I just described is such a microcosm of NAMM. Like it's the corner of the north. I don't know if it's north, but it feels north because it's up. It's like the farthest possible corner from the entrance.
Which is crazy because it's such a big deal for us,
Yeah, no, it's still big. The Pro Audio Wing is huge. It's just like NAMM. Anaheim, so Anaheim is outside of LA. It's south of LA. It's where Disneyland is. There's a ton of hotels, and that's sort of it. There's like hotels, the Anaheim Conference Center, Disneyland. Like that's sort of what Anaheim is, but it's packed all the time because of those things. And so when NAMM happens, you have 100,000 people in a good year roll through. Every instrument manufacturer, every manufacturer from around the world is there. So obviously it's cool. Gear wise, it's just mayhem. Whatever you're interested in, there's an abundance of it. So the pro audio side is like outside of these immersive rooms. You walk the floor, but you can also, shake hands and smile with somebody from a company that you use or that you're curious about. And everybody's vibe is excellent. I feel like it's not salesy because no one's selling you anything there. Obviously,
it's the community.
It's community. Now, of course, it's commerce, right? Like if you like the EQ, then you go and you buy one. Great, of course. Like we all know what we're getting into. But the best part, a nice thing about Anaheim, is that once NAMM is done for the day, there's not really like that far to go. So you're in one of the hotels, even if you get a cheaper hotel 20 minutes away, you're still like, if you just go for a beverage of your choice, in my case, go for a beer or a glass of wine at any of the bars, there's already a party built in. You don't have to ask, you just go. It's just like, it's just happening. So you go to one of these big hotel lobbies and it's just like the town is this big music industry party. And I'm not talking about, a party like people being it's also like musicians. So it's like people are pretty cool overall.
Oh, it's a professional vibe still. Like people are handling it.
People are handling it.
It's not.
So it's the best.
Not crazy.
It's like exactly, it's just a beautiful opportunity. And then we go back to our studios and we live in situations where as social as we like to be, a lot of the time we're working individually, right? Like it's the nature of the beast.
It is. Like the amount of time I spend in this room is a lot. Yeah.
It's a lot. I mean, hey, a lot of people with a lot of jobs also do similar things. So it's a part of our vocation, but I do think that social events like NAMM, or I would also say AES, the Audio Engineering Society, which next year is going to be, this year now in the fall is going back to California, to Long Beach, but it's been in New York for many years until then, is another, a little bit smaller, so you don't have all the other manufacturers and everything, but it's just community. It's a beautiful thing.
It is. It is. I think I'm sensing that more and more. I think the whole point is that everyone's underlining the reason we do this. It's just a simple idea of trying to do something that is inspiring to yourself first, but then to help other people. We were talking about teaching and then obviously at NAMM as well. That's sort of what it's all about. It's just about helping each other build cool things and just experiences and just life at its core, really, is what it's all about.
Yep,
so
absolutely.
Really cool.
Yeah, so that's been it. I mean, the story I was going to tell you. So I had the pleasure and the challenge of remixing Snoop Dogg's Doggystyle in Atmos.
I did see that. Yeah.
And this was a full-on go back to the original tapes record. And it was a long journey. In fact, if anyone wants the Immersive Audio album site, where they sell, Jonathan, they sell digital versions of immersive content. So IAA, I have an interview on there where I sort of describe it. So, anyone's interested in sort of reading into the details, but basically,
check that out.
Yeah, they go back to the original 24-track tapes. The MPC was missing on a whole bunch of songs, and again, this is Dre's MPC. This is Doggystyle. I mean, this is, for many people, this is number one hip hop record of all time, but it's definitely in most folks' top 10. And so when I got commissioned to do the record, obviously, there's a lot of pressure there, and I'm fine with pressure. It's not like feeling pressure in a negative way, but just this is a seminal piece of art.
Yeah, you want to do it justice, absolutely.
And it required an insane amount of work to restore, to recreate parts that were missing, which I did.
Like restoration style? Is that what you mean?
No, and even just having to recreate missing things.
How do you do that?
Taking the stereo master, let's say a hi-hat's just missing, it's gone, right?
Wow, okay.
So, especially at that time, separation software, sucked. I still think it's okay. Oh. Not when you start to spatially move things around, because you expose the problems, which are meant to be masked.
Absolutely. Those artifacts are so easy to spot. Yeah.
They're so easy to spot, and it just sounds whatever. It's getting better. And it works from time to time. You're like, oh wow, I pulled that bass out of nowhere. Great. But in this case, it's again, these are very famous hi-hats. So when something's missing, I take the stereo master, and my assistant Ender Chung was a big part of this too. And timing, down to the sample, timing cannot change, right? Unacceptable, because it's the groove. It's that is art. The hip hop music, the timing of the kick and the snare and the hi-hat is it. So I cut up the master into every single missing thing and create MIDI triggers, perfectly timed. And then search and resampled in space, because my job was not to remix this record. My job was to make an immersive version of this record. So as you know, tonal qualities change when we move things. So oftentimes we have to re-equalize things because we chose to put them somewhere else. So I actually am referencing the stereo master and choosing the sample in the place that it needs to be to match. And of course, working with the team and working with the, not with Dre or Snoop directly on this, but working with their artistic team. It took many, many months just to, I would spend 6 hours just looping a snare drum, just trying to make a snare sound be exact, precise.
Wow.
And then, you walk away, you come back the next day and you're like, I thought I was there, but my brain was screwing with me. You know how it is. You listen to something too much and you just lose perspective. So anyways, completely remixed the record, top to bottom. What a journey. And then we're at NAMM. And so Snoop and Dre, they've used Augsburger monitors forever. And Dave Malekpour, who's I think he's the owner of Augsburger, and he's certainly is the main distributor. I think he's the owner of Augsburger. Amazing guy, such a cool guy. Tunes rooms all around the world. Augsburgers are the LA hip hop speaker of all time.
Top notch.
They are the big ones that were in every hip hop studio. And those things go, they're famous for just being so ruthlessly loud. But actually the new versions of these speakers, they are building some They're building some speakers. They're building a pair, like there's a pair of speakers that they did, but they brought that just blow my mind. Like for the size, these speakers are, if that was the music I was working in all the time, those would be the speakers.
Okay, wow. I haven't heard them.
Really, really special. The whole thing, we're just like, whoa, how is that doing that especially for bass and bass content? We're just like, God. But also with all of the hi-fi imaging and everything.
Is it just like near fields? Like what are we talking about?
Midfields, but not the big, like not the famous big ones. Like much like honestly, I don't know, maybe more like the size of like an A2, like the S2X, the Atoms, like the next size up from the ones you have there. But like they're not huge. And
they're three-way?
And they might even be two-way, but I need to look it up.
Okay. I'll put a picture on the screen here to show people what
I think they're two-way, and then like integrated sub and the amplification, like the whole thing, crossover and everything, and it's just like, oh my gosh. Needless to say, they set up a 914 of this on the floor at NAMM, not in a booth.
That's insane.
And it's so cool, so awesome in like their booth, and they had a renderer and everything. And the folks from Death Row, which is just Snoop's label, are all there, and we'd been talking. We'd never met in person, and I had all the files with me, and so we met at the Augsburger booth, and we were like, "Hey, why don't we get together? We'll play it back. You meet Dave, and just play back a couple songs, and it'll be great." And so we go, and obviously, Gin and Juice is going to be the first one that gets played.
I played that right before we I was like, I got to hear this.
Yeah, so we played Gin and Juice, and slowly but surely, just like the number of people in the zone just starts to just grow exponentially.
That's awesome.
And what's awesome is I didn't know it because I just didn't know it, but like a lot of original engineers were there, like people who are like, and it was a total party. And there was people who, and again, I'm in Los Angeles. This is West Coast hip hop. This is a Los Angeles record.
This is like OG. That's where it's from. That's what it's designed for.
It's there, and
the place.
Culture, right? Like when we talk about the culture of music and where it's connected, it's like this is being played in its home in this new form. So there I am pulling up the masters, and I remember one of the engineers is just like, play this one. So we just play the whole record. The folks from NAMM were telling them to turn the speakers down, and they're just turning them up. And the group just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I remember I met a friend of mine now, Rock AM. We met right then and there, and he's listening. And anyways, needless to say, we play the whole record. It's fantastic. People are coming in and out, having a blast. And then when it's done, realistically, like no one there knew who I was, right? Like that, I'm not from LA. That's not my production community. Like we haven't worked on records before. So a couple of folks are like, man, what is this? Like who did this? And like, oh, well, Justin did. And they're like, the fuck's Justin? Like, you know what I mean? Like, but the best part about it was everybody, including some of the original folks who worked on this record, sort of came up. I remember one person in specific who came and was like, man, I just want to thank you because this record means everything. And this is it, but also this. And it's like, it feels exactly the way it should. And that has stuck with me a long time. Like
that is huge.
You know what I mean? Because, and it took a lot of work. It took months and months of work to do. And sure, there are still things where it's like, okay, I mean, if I could have gone back and got the original MPC or whatever, but it's like those were with the resources that I had, that's the best that I could do. But the care and when you really get inside a record and you really, try to really truly get under it and feel what it feels like and feel how it then can expand logically. And in some songs, it's like you only have like 4 or 5 layers. It can't expand to be this crazy enveloping thing. It can't because it feels bad, right? Like when you get down to the feeling of it, you listen to the stereo master and like, this is perfection. This is tried and tested hip hop perfection. So what am I going to do to it unless it makes it the same or better? And not better in like a competition way, but like it needs to hold everything about the stereo and then plus X. Yeah. And so that was the goal the whole time. And when I was describing to Rock and some of them, like a whole bunch of things that I had to do to make it become what it was and how it was possible. Like when you go back to tape, none of the EQ, none of the effects, none of the compression, none of the edits, most of the punch edits. I had verses that were the wrong verses. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah. Tons of wildness. Now, anyone working on sort of legacy work knows this tale. But yeah, to be able to play it back at NAMM and have that party there, that's going to be a hard one to beat for me.
That's huge. Yeah. Oh my God. I can't even imagine. I wish I was there.
It was a blast.
That would have been epic to experience with you. That's insane. So we were talking before about, so in a cinema that you're sort of designing your album to be heard in, and that you're making a dedicated theatrical mix for that. A lot of what I do ends up not always cinema. It's not the top level of cinema release or anything like that, but it is typically for festivals in a vast, the cinema wild, if we're going to call it that, because it's sort of different everywhere. So I tend to work in this room or another sort of near field experience, to do the premix and then check it in some sort of dub stage. When that happens, I notice specifically, different translation things occur, particularly around, say, where the screen is and where your left, center, right can be, where the wides actually are in a near field as opposed to the orthogonal. Things like that, like these are quite technical things that probably not everyone has to deal with. But I just wondered how that process was for you and how you make that work for two different Atmos environments.
Yep, it's a challenge because they're different. And there's no way around it. And also Dolby's never promised that it goes up to cinema the way that they've promised it goes to binaural. No, there's a ceiling at 916.
Yes.
There's a home entertainment ceiling. Nothing crosses. Like Dolby, no one in any literature has ever said it works. But of course, cinemas are the best. They're the largest, some of the largest publicly available immersive audio listening environments on the planet, and there's a lot of them. So, of course, as musicians, or at least for me, of course I'm going to find it, and of course I'm going to want to use it. So,
yes. But it is a dedicated mix, though, right?
Oh yeah.
So it has to be.
It has to be, and everyone I know who has had a situation where it wasn't a dedicated mix and it got replayed has been disappointed.
It's inevitable. It's happened to me many times. Yeah. Where that's where they say 5:1 mix or whatever it is, and then you play it somewhere that cinema is very different to a near field or home entertainment situation. They're just different beasts, and they just never translate exactly. It might sound okay, but it's not exact. So I just wondered how you went about that for the album.
Yeah, I mean, so first of all, of course, regardless of how well I think it went, and of course that will be determined soon when people get to hear it. In fact, so one of the world premieres coming up soon from the day we're meeting, June 7th in Toronto at a big 38 speakers sort of cinematic environment. I'm doing one at the Vine Theater in LA on July 10th, and then hopefully some in Europe with Ian Records and the label as well to do something with Dolby Deutschland. And I'd like to maybe at some point get to New York. And so, I have this, I have a dedicated DCP of the record, which means I can sort of travel around with it. So
you're doing like a road show essentially.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm still, I'm working on how many I can afford to do and where.
You coming to Australia?
I would love to, but maybe even if I can't, then maybe it can go. But these are the other joys of being an artist: distribution and.
Yes, all of that fun. I'd be there in a heartbeat.
Thank you. So, something happened to me a number of years ago, which was awesome. Is I was doing a presentation on Atmos for music. At UMG here in Toronto, and there was a remixer there who's a good I would say, a friend and certainly a very close colleague of mine named Steve Foster, who works at a place called Company 3 in Toronto, which is one of the big dub stages that does, Disney stuff and Netflix stuff and really killing room. Ooh, a gorgeous JBL room. Oh, maybe one of my favorite places to listen to music in the whole world.
That's awesome.
So anyways, Steve was there and he was listening to this presentation and he came up to me after. He's like, man, I am a remixer. I love what you're talking about with music and how detailed you're getting with it. And I've gone and I've listened to your work and I think it even translates to headphones. Like, how is this happening? And I'm going, I love cinema and so we started a relationship. And what we did for about a year, on and off, every once in a while, Steve would call and say, hey, client's leaving here at 6th today, bring over some ADMs. And I would bring over ADMs of stuff and we'd load it up and we'd listen to it in the dub stage. And I did that quite a lot. And then vice versa, I'd be like, hey, Steve, if you're off work sometime this week, come over. And he'd come and he'd listen in my space. And we'd listen in 714, we'd listen in 916, we'd listen in 1116 eventually. And so there was this sort of long-standing thing where we went back and forth and tested beds and tested objects because unlike home entertainment, beds and objects are fundamentally different in the cinema, fundamentally. In the sense that one of them engages arrays of speakers, which fills space very easily, but also lacks precision of location. Yes. And one of them is extremely precise, but can potentially have other problems arise in terms of how rooms are tuned and maybe in terms of being too precise for a giant room. And so suddenly all the decisions that we made at our home entertainment mix, there's actual processing at the cinema level because in cinema, there's no spatial coding. It is a full-fledged 128 channel delivery. And it's contained in what's called an MXF. The MXF is the high. Realistically, the MXF is essentially an ADM for consumers, right? It's full resolution, 4824. It can't be 96, but it can be because of cinema. It is a full object-based format. A full bed-based format. All channels are there. There's no reduction of quality whatsoever. So, which is awesome.
Yes.
Basically, the MXF is amazing. And it's virtually playing back an ADM, synced picture. So, from all of that back and forth translation, I would bring in for instance, I'd bring in a song and be like, okay, I put the reverbs on the bed, everything else objects. Okay, this time I put the drums on the bed, I put everything else. We would do snippets and tests and sort of figured out what I did figure out though is that it's as with all things, it's completely content dependent. It's completely intent dependent on how punchy you want the music versus how wide you want the music, how orchestral you want the music versus how tight you want the music. It's totally dependent. And therefore, what you need is control. And the issue is dub stages are expensive. Because look at the real estate. Of course they are, right? And they're also, normally working with large film clients, at least big dub stages. They're billing Apple. They're not billing me. They're billing Netflix. And power to them. I'm pumped for them for that. And they should. And those companies should pay them, and they should probably pay them more, and
all of that stuff. But I mean, it's not typically the mixes that we're doing end up there anyway, though. Is that what you're sort of getting at?
No, and if they do, it's the amount of time that is allocated to it is limited, not because of not someone wanting to do it, because of budgets, and because of resources. It's not. We're already asking our clients to remix their song. And then you want to ask it again? Well, I did do that. And so I've done a bunch of records. Jonathan Kawchuk is one. Jonathan Kawchuk and I actually, the first time Jonathan and I played it back in the cinema, we couldn't afford a DCP. So we turned off the screen and I brought my Blu-ray player and figured out how to hack into the CP850. And I played the Blu-ray and it basically played a 714 render of the record in this huge AVX theater.
That's hilarious because I actually have built a modular rig specifically to do that. Right next to me, I've got the capability to do that, so I can move my entire brain Mac Studio interfaces with a patch out
via HDMI.
No, it is. So you'd need balanced XLR.
Okay,
but yeah, so you could still. I've done it before, where I actually take the rig, the whole case, and go to a place, and if they let you patch in the control room is close enough, then I can actually run my whole studio session with my workflow in the dub stage.
Interesting. No, so this one was in a movie theater. We couldn't afford to make a DCP. The CP850, if you can get a cinema owner to let you touch the menus, which they do not want to do.
Yes.
But I managed to do. I brought my
just
Blu-ray.
HDMI in.
HDMI in. It will read True HD.
Wow.
And then I played back, and then we had 150 people come and attend, and we turned the screen off, and they listened to the record in an AVX theater. This is in 2022.
That's insane. Wow, that's so cool. So a bit different from what I'm doing, but still, like that's incredible that you can even do that.
That was awesome and revealing. That was the first time where I was like, this is awesome, and it's also sort of like not as awesome as I want it to be. So that's where I was like, yeah, clearly I need a new mix. And so then Steve comes along, we do this thing. The next record that I did it for was an artist named Eliana Cuevas. There's a record called Sere Libre. It's also available. It's beautiful chamber, like sort of 32-piece chamber orchestra plus vocals. These gorgeous Venezuelan songs that have been reimagined in these stunning arrangements. And I was part of recording the record. Then I mastered the record in stereo. And then I was like, this has to be done. They had gorgeous video for it as well. And I mixed one of the songs in Atmos. I brought Jeremy and Eliana, the two leaders of the project, over. They listened to it and they're like, oh, this is like what it was supposed to be all along. I recognize, budget-wise, like it's not about that. If you release this in a movie theater, I'll make this happen. And so we did that. And that was a couple of years ago. And we did a DCP, and I took all the research that I'd been doing and I created a mix in my place. And now I am working in 1116. I am working in full range speakers. The Lipinskys translate really well. But then I needed to be able to create a system that would provide enough information for the dub remix, but also not too much information because time is still limited. So I can't bring the record. Of course, sure, I'd love to just bring my Mac Studio and just start from scratch. Sure, literally, I could spend $20,000 just mixing easily. That would be an easy, and it would be, in my world, a mistake because I'd be screwed.
Yes.
So it needs to be just the right amount of information that you can adjust what you need while also maintaining the essence of what you made. And this is where objects are everything. Not because you're going to make it an object in the theater necessarily. And this is where the film mixers are like, no, we like beds more than whatever. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that the object is a mono track. And there are 128. There's 118 objects and 12 bed channels. And so we've got, and 10 bed channels. So we've got 128 linear PCM lanes in an ADM.
So it's how you can group things or isolate things within the ADM. And
of course, as you said in a message that you sent to me, this is why the renderer has all of the stem groups and like it's built in. The map is already there. So
exactly.
So for my record, I thought about it that way from the very beginning because I knew if I organize it this way, I'll be fine when I get to the remix. So before mixing a single note, I planned out exactly how I would organize everything into essentially 904 or 906 subgroups. Of course, the LFE is summed, right? Like it's just
it's there.
It's there. I mean, you could come to the dub stage with multiple LFEs, but realistically in the songs, I usually am augmenting a kick or I'm augmenting a bass. I'm not trying to create super messy LFE information. I am making discrete LFE information always. It's never an extension of something. It is always new information.
Yes, yeah. I think that's how it's meant to be used because, I mean, all 128 are full range already. So it's not supposed to be used as that necessarily. Although it does, in home entertainment, like it does use it for that too.
They're different. But regardless, aesthetics and practice, that could be an area where some like it this way, some like it this way. Whatever. That's I did it that way. So now I get to the dub stage and I've got it all organized, videos in there. I've got groups made. I've already made tons of all my groups. And man, we were able to whip through repositioning. This is where the concept, so people call it an object bed. I want to call it an object group because a bed implies a speaker location in my mind, where a group is
understand that.
An object group is a reminder that it's just 15 objects that have correlated audio content. But Atmos doesn't see it as anything but mono tracks. It's actually one of the, if I was to say there's a flaw in the format, something that MPEG-H, which Sony 360 uses, has, is the ability to have intelligent metadata that tells the system that there are objects meant to be grouped together.
Okay, so Atmos doesn't have that.
But even post-renderer, right? Like all it sees is mono. The renderer,
yeah, that's right.
Even in spatial coding, it doesn't know what stereo is. It doesn't know what it doesn't know you made a 916 anything. It just knows amplitude and audio. Now, it works really well if we mix properly for it, but still, at the end of the day, it's a bunch of mono tracks, and you can move them if you so when you get into an now you get to your question about spherical to now it's Cartesian to still it is spherical. Right? Like my studio's spherical, but actually the renderer uses Cartesian coordinates.
For your arrays. Is that why?
Well, no, Atmos just uses Cartesian coordinates. So that means that it's a box. There are edges, there are corners. So if you actually take a spatial location, it's mapping it according to there being a 90-degree edge. Where in Sony 360, it's actually spherical coordinates. Now, if we make all of our speakers equidistant to our head, it's a dome. It's semi-spherical. If you follow Oro 3D, it's not semi-spherical. Like IMAX, the height channels are actually sort of above. They're sort of further back.
Yes.
So it's not equidistant. It's actually a bit more orthogonal. And then when you get into the cinema, it's orthogonal, which means we're now in this large rectangle shape.
Yeah.
And it's practical. You got to get those speakers up on a ceiling. You got to elongate the room to have more people to watch the movie to be able to afford to have a movie theater.
Absolutely. Well, I think we're deep diving here into the different types. The spherical, people usually just talk about two. Like there's orthogonal, or there's the equidistant, which is the two typical ways to think about it, essentially. But like you highlighted something really important, I think, that Atmos still is the cube within the coordinates of the cube that makes sense of that. But then where speakers are placed to get, like if you had left, center, right on a wall straight, well, then they're not equidistant. And also, I think where this matters with the orthogonal thing is that how big the screen is and how wide those are changes depending on how far away you are from them. So that's where the thing is like decorrelated between home entertainment to the cinema mix. So am I caught up? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And so
great.
So now we get to the large room. Immediately, the first thing that needs to get addressed are some pretty major but pretty obvious levels. Largely center channel. It's like because center channel in our I'm all for a great phantom image. I love phantom imaging. Not in a movie theater. It sucks. It doesn't exist unless you are maybe one person in the theater is allowed to have it. And everyone else is just like, well, I hear dialogue out of the left channel. I mean, again, this has been solved. They invented the channel for the purpose.
Exactly, yeah.
So for my record, even in the home entertainment version, it is a center channel record. Every soloist is right there. So the whole time, like that, I built it that way because that is a mandatory for the cinema. it's not even a question. It's not even like you don't do it and you regret it every time.
Yeah, which is interesting for the normal distribution of music. A lot of times they don't want anything in the center, or at least just no vocal by itself. For reasons of stealing the a cappella, I guess. Is that something that you factored in for the normal music mix as well? Is it just it's always centers in there as well?
Yeah, and I love it. You know what?
It should be.
I love it.
I agree with that.
I adore it. It's again, this time it's not better or worse, but it is mine. And therefore I could do whatever I want. And that's power. That's empowering. Again, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I'm saying it's right for me, and therefore it was right.
That is a very valid way to say that. Completely valid. Love that. And people should know why that's the answer. Like, it's not enough to say something is right or wrong or good or bad or whatever. But if you have an opinion, you should know why. And that's a really good way to explain that.
Cool. Yeah.
So well done.
Thank you.
For knowing that and owning that.
Yeah. Thank you. So then you get there. Right away, you're like, okay, yep, we've got to address the fact that the LCR are bigger speakers. We've got to address the fact that the left and right speaker are likely 45 feet away from each other. We've got to address that everything in the room is up high. In fact, the wall speakers are at such an angle where to some listeners in the room, it is like our height channels. Yeah. Right? Like it's totally possible to have a 45-degree angle to a wall speaker if you sit like into like a third to the left. So the entire feeling is different. Then, of course, if you don't sit in the middle of the theater, then you're closer to a wall, and the other wall is 60. Like the back corner is 60 feet from you. I mean, so we're actually asking the impossible of it. And therefore, the way that they tune the rooms is different. That's right. It's fundamentally different. They don't tune every speaker to be perfectly time aligned. They tune the arrays of speakers, which are groups of speakers. And so basically, your entire sense of the balance and the precision of the mix and the way in which it's filling the space changes. So if you've provided only a single 916 stem, tough. Like, it's sort of like, okay, well, you got to make a compromise and hope for the best. And then usually it's like, I want to turn the vocal up, but I don't want to turn the bass up in the center channel. And it's like, if it's all baked in,
can't do anything.
You can try. You might get lucky. It might work. You might be able to move some stuff into the bed and the arrays might benefit. Also, you might put stuff in the bed and the arrays might make it completely phasey and diffuse and not feel like your record at all, which is what happened to me on this record.
Really?
So I use objects a lot. And there are consequences to that. If I find myself in the wrong movie theater, where the tuning is like really not good, there can be some timing risks that I take in doing it. But again, we come down now to the artistic intent part. I know the rooms I'm going to play this record back in. It's going to be like Dolby Cinemas. It's not going, I'm not a famous I'm not like Cineplex is not putting this out like beside a Mission Impossible. It's not happening. If that happens, maybe I'll do another remake. I don't know. But so I went to create the most accurate version of it that I could, according to a great dub stage that I trust. And this is the same as mixing in our studios, right? You mix in the best environment. You master. If you can't mix, you get someone to master it in the best possible environment, and you hope for translation. And you cross your fingers for translation, and that's how it works. And the dub stages, I mean, they're also, no matter how good the dub stage is, they're all sort of throwing something into the dark, being like, well, here we use 43 speakers, and it's because that's the size of our room. And then you go to an AMC theater or you go to a Cineplex and it's like, well, they have 25 speakers. Or you go to a giant one that's so absurdly big that like, what are you supposed to do here?
You can't get it right for every single place. Like even I was going to say as well, like even just the horn, speakers that are in a cinema, the EQ is completely different to what we're listening to in our new fields, particularly on Atom tweeters, I don't even know where it rolls off, but it's something ridiculous.
Exactly.
You don't get any of that high-end stuff. If you sort of put it down to, you got to just know where it's finished at some point. You just hand it off and go, it's good enough. And it's a balance of like an average of majority of places it'll sound roughly what you're looking for. Is that kind of the thing?
I mean, I think that's where the remixers are mastering engineers, as far as I can tell, right? They are remixers, they're mixers, but at a certain point they have to act as the mastering engineer. They have to decide upon where's the point of translation. And they study the tech, they study how the translation, they will go to every, the release of their films. They go to more film festivals than I do. And that's why, again, the team. So I bring it to Steve and I say, look, Steve, this is how it feels to me in this room. That object feels correct. This feels better in the bed. I'm happy with this. I'm happy with this. 916 is not working anymore. So I want to bring these objects forward. I want to move these objects. Now all of a sudden the instruments are filling the space. So I'm reorchestrating the record a little bit.
Yeah.
Which is, again, I built the control into the mix to be able to do that so that the horns are all on their own. That way I can actually just move the horns. The drums are all on their own. I can just adjust the height channels of the drums. All built into like the concept of being able to fill that orthogonal space properly and try to engage the full space in the same way that I wanted to engage the full space in my mix. And then you work with someone who does that job every day. And that's why you're there. And you let them do their thing and you have a dialogue and they say, yeah, this is what I'm experiencing. This is what I think is going to work. This is how this is going to translate. Yeah, I think we should push the top end, or yes, I think we should have the rears be a little bit louder because actually when you get to a smaller cinema, it's probably going to be smaller speakers. And now you trust that engineer.
Yeah. It's all part of that process. It's a huge process, but it is like no one person can do all of it. That's the thing.
Yeah, and so we work together just like a composer would and a remixer. And listening to the record at Company 3, the cinema master at Company 3 where it was done, if that is my number one listening experience of this record, bar none. If I could have everybody experience what we finished there in that room, where we at the end of the day, of course, it hopefully translates to other places, but like that's the mastering room. If I could just bring everyone there and that was the one thing they experienced, that's what I would do. That's my sculpture. Even above. And the second place would be my studio and my chair with the 1116 and Lipinski's, because that's, again, where I crafted it down to its finest detail.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, we have to let it go into the world. And such is life. So at least I know that I gave Steve and the remix everything that I could in a practical way that allowed for enough adjustment to maximize the potential while also getting the record done in a day. Because that bill is my bill.
It's expensive.
Someone else wants to front a check. I'm happy to mix as many days.
Yeah, well, I think so. George Lucas actually said this really cool thing about films that aren't released; they escape. Have you heard that one? It's so true with everything that we do. You sort of reach a point where it's like, well, it's just got to be done, and there's a sort of mentality that you kind of have to have that's like, well, you could tweak this forever, but at some point you got to call it done. And that's, of course it makes sense. The best place you're ever going to hear it is where you made the decisions to leave it. You know what I mean? That makes total sense. Like I tell my clients as well, like, just keep in mind the best place you're ever going to hear it is probably here. So when you leave, it's sort of out into who knows what environment. And it's just always going to be the case, But I mean, we do the best we can, like you said, and it's like an average of all those technical decisions and knowledge from a huge, collaborative effort of lots of people. And then finally, when you do let it out, it's like, okay, we did everything we could, and it's great, and that's enough, and that's awesome. That's what it is.
I think that's the nature of art.
That's it. But yeah, thank you so much, Justin, for coming on and having this awesome chat. It's been amazing. it's continuing to inspire me and other people I'm showing as well. Just everything that you're doing in the space, from everything from the beginning all the way up to now. And I can't wait to hear the full thing when it's out. Like you said, August. Do you have an actual date for that?
It should be August 22nd.
August 22nd. Okay, cool. I'm going to put that one in the calendar. And I'll link like all of your socials and things like that, your website, your YouTube, and obviously the album as well when it's out to this episode. So people can check that out. If it's already out by the time you see this, check it out in the description.
Have a great night.
Thanks, man. You too.
Well, no, now you're in the day. Now you're in the day.
You're right. It is. What is it? We are 3:15 right now. What time is it for you?
It's like 1. I'm a night person.
1 a.m. Oh, wow. Well, thank you again for taking the time in your night. That's awesome.
My pleasure.
Cool.
Hey,
thanks, mate. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to Beyond Stereo, the Dolby Atmos podcast. If you like what you heard, check out some of our other episodes available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Buzzsprout, and YouTube. And be sure to look out for more exciting guests very, very soon. See you there.